Well, Happy New Year, everybody. I hope
Happy New Year.
everybody had a good celebration. And thanks for joining us here in the first episode of 2024. Mando, how you doing?
I'm doing well. I'm ready for the spooky, the scary, the slightly weird, and everything in between when it comes to the unknown.
And with us for the first time, Leon, Words of Paradise, man. How are you?
Oh man, I'm stoked to be here. Yeah, very first time. We run in a lot of the same circles. We see each other in chat all the time, but this will be the first time being on your show. You're going to be on mine in the next Monday. All in all, this is stoked. I mean, you asked me on for the perfect episode because like I was saying backstage, grew up watching the X-Files. One of my favorite shows, easily top 10, if not top 5 favorite shows of all time. So I'm ready to get the show on the road. I'm an unabashed David Duchovny fan. Will watch anything the movie the man is in, whether it sucks or not. Like P.S. I love you, or what I think he was. Either way, yeah, no, David Duchovny's the man. So I'm down. Let's get into it.
Yeah. And the Fluke Matt is in the house. What's up, man?
I try to do the fluke face, like,
Cthulhu, like.
Well, I mean, there's a
Yes, I love you. Return to me.
There's a Lovecraftian influence on the X-Files. I mean, it's definitely, I'm doing good. 2024 has started out, okay. So, knock on wood. We'll see what goes on.
Yeah, Melvin. All of us need to verify our age in order to watch this episode.
Yes.
Because apparently the X-Files makes
Oh, there's so much like that. Like there'll be trigger warnings at every episode.
Yeah.
Actually, really, what sites did you guys watch? Because there wasn't a trigger warning or anything on Amazon when I queued it up earlier.
Well,
really?
I have it all on Blu-ray, so I don't. Even if I didn't have it, I wouldn't. Because I won't give Amazon Prime any views like for anything anymore because of the 2 shows I won't mention, which will still be downers.
I'm sorry, Lady Marine. I'm sorry.
But then again, the X-Files is worth owning in general, and you should all own original media because they keep altering stuff now to help to make it less danger or whatever.
Yeah. And Beard, how's it going?
Fairly well, I suppose. Still trying to get over the I don't know, whatever that thing that's been sweeping across the country that's trying to take everybody out. Seems like everybody I know has gone through it. Got my cup of tea here, so hopefully I can make it through this episode. But yeah, I had a more, let's call, conservative upbringing, and X-Files was one of those you're not supposed to watch TV shows. I still did occasionally. So I've never really sat down and watched the entirety of the thing. I've never really been super into it. I've always enjoyed it. And this was a really fun way to kind of dip my toes back into early X-Files.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I watched this from when it first aired all the way through. I haven't watched the newer stuff, but yeah.
Yeah. You would have been one of those kids I wasn't allowed to hang out with.
The first new season was good. Like when they did the initial revival in like
2012 or
so. No, I think it was 2015 or 2016. It was good. They did a second season. I didn't watch that, but it really did feel like it felt like the X-Files. It didn't seem like there was time had passed, and which was awesome because there was in between the revival and the ending of the series, there was a comic series called the X-Files Season 10, which was canon at the time. I think that the revival rendered it non-canon, but it was also a really good comic series if you wanted to keep following it after the show ended.
Yeah, my problem with the revival was where was the alien invasion was supposed to happen in like 28 or whatever, 2008. I mean, at least I was like, come on, you promised us an alien invasion and you didn't give us one.
Well, also like in it was episode 1 or I forget which one that we're about to talk about. He's like, so you're going to be head of the FBI and in 30 years, it'll be 2023 and this won't even matter. And I'm just like,
I was wondering if he chose it for that reason. I was wondering if Jacob was like, hey, this is the perfect episode because of the new year. You know, exactly 30 years later. That's clever.
Well, I
And
mean,
if you
now it's
didn't bring that
past.
was very, very well executed by accident.
Yeah,
right?
it was.
Oh my gosh.
I was watching,
just
I was like, hey, wait a second. It's been 30 years.
right? Yeesh. It's crazy to think
hope
about.
There's no more of them out there.
I hope so too. That was funny. It's like, and in 2023, you'll be head of the FBI. And I'm like, wait a second.
And now, lo and behold, we know who's to blame for the FBI teaming up with Twitter back when they were under control. It's all Dana Scully's fault. Dana Scully
It's
was
all
out
her
here
fault.
leaking elections and shit and stuff. Sorry.
Yeah.
Yeah, actually, I and my siblings started watching it first. And we had just watched this episode, or Squeeze, the first episode. And we were out with my mom, and she, has to make a quick run into the store, and she lets us stay in the car. And she rolls down the window a little bit. And I'm like, can you roll down the window more? And she's like, no, the stretch man will get you. And she hadn't seen the show. It's like, oh no. It's good stuff. But yeah,
and the actor who played him, like, I don't know if you guys remember, but he's also the guy who played the creepy prison guard in The Green Mile.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Thereafter,
on that.
thereafter, like every role this guy played, like people thought he was creepy even when he wasn't supposed to be creepy.
Yeah.
I just thought he was reminding me of like extra chromosome Cillian Murphy.
Also, has anyone ever like seen Law and Order SVU?
He was on it. The dude who played the fluke. He was on there. Yep.
Well, also like Detective Stabler was the dude's psychiatrist, the one who dies at the end. I was like, wait a second, detective, I see
No, that
you.
wasn't Stabler. That was Ben Jacob, the guy who played in The Invisible Man from Sci-Fi Channel. He played he's a Jewish guy.
He looked
no
The bald guy.
The bald guy. He's
Yeah.
I can't remember his name.
So yeah, I was like, are we talking about beard here over here? Like
the role I remember him from is from the Sci-Fi Invisible Man. He the TV, it ran 2 seasons. It was a great TV show, and unfortunately got canceled. And he played the sort of government agent partner of the Invisible Man. I gotta look his name up. I can never remember his name.
Yeah, I can't. Yeah, it's the doctor in the second episode.
Yeah.
Roman says Peter Boyle. The Peter Boyle episode of X-Files is fantastic. That's not what we're talking about, but that is a really good episode.
Yeah. Peter Boyle is a classic horror actor too.
Yeah, I mean, just X-Files in general has so many names come back to it that you wouldn't expect. I mean, in this one, it took me a while to realize, and I'm sure we're going to get to it, but what's it? Donal Logue, that I know mostly from Gotham.
Paul Ben Victor. That's the actor.
Was that who played the FBI dude at the beginning that was having the lunch with Scully? That was Donal Logue?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he looked familiar throughout the whole episode.
And he played
I had to look him up.
Yeah, he was in SVU, Law and Order. He plays
got some insane guest stars, like from before they were famous. Like the whole reason Bryan Cranston got cast in Breaking Bad is because of his guest starring role on X-Files. Like fun fact for any Breaking Bad fans, because the original people doing the casting for Breaking Bad were not going to cast him because like what? The Malcolm in the Middle guy? No, we can't see it. And then the writers showed them the episode that he was in of X-Files. Like, okay, we can see it now. Jack Black, a real young Jack Black, is in an episode of X-Files. It's incredible the amount of talent that was in the show when you look back.
Yeah.
I think Tony Shalhoub was in one. Just a lot of different people that you like. Hey, that's that guy. And the guy that played in Evil Dead, Bruce Dern. Right? What's his name? The guy that played in Evil Dead. Bruce Campbell is in one too.
Yep, he is.
So yeah.
Hi there, Squeaky Mouse. Nice to see you.
Squeaky.
Hey, how's it going? Yeah, this always creeped me out. The guy in the sewer.
This is a great opening.
Mm-hmm.
Well, no pun intended, but boom, it's great.
There you go.
Thank you. But I mean, there's so many like classic, and I mean like really back in the day classic horror tropes. They do really well in this, including things like just the light on the eyes and the things like that. And just that opening scene of him glaring out of the sewer is fantastic.
So when I
Oh,
first
America says X-Files introduced him to the Filter song "Hey Man, Nice Shot." That is an awesome song,
which has a tie-in to this series eventually, because the dude in Filter, his brother, becomes starring in the X-Files eventually.
Really?
No.
Yeah, Richard and Robert Patrick. Well, it's
Wait,
Richard,
the lead singer of Filter is Robert Patrick's brother?
yeah, Richard Patrick.
I had no idea.
Not just the lead
That's
singer, the guy
awesome.
behind Filter. He was in Nine Inch Nails with Trent Reznor. And remember, I don't know if you're an old-time Nine Inch Nails fan, but eventually Trent started putting on albums. Nine Inch Nails is Trent Reznor, because he had a breakup basically with Richard Patrick, who went on to form Filter, who sounded just like the original Nine Inch Nails. And
that's crazy.
Yep.
I thought I knew my music history. That was impressive, my man.
Well, I kind of lived through it. Plus, the Filter was great before he went happy.
Well, also Matt is the purveyor of all of the knowledges of all of the things ever.
That's true.
Well, there's other tie-ins like this episode. So my second favorite, my favorite TV show is The $6 Million Man. My second favorite TV show is Kolchak the Night Stalker, right, from the 1970s. And this episode, when I first saw it when I was young, it turns out they don't remember seeing it, but they recognize that the similarity. That this episode is very similar to the second episode or TV movie, however you want to call it, The Kolchak the Night Stalker, about a guy who goes underground for 20 or 30 years, comes out of ground, has to murder people, and then I guess the raccoons got Jacob, or he hides down there. He comes out, he has to murder a bunch of people. In his case, he has to take their blood, then go back underground again. So this is kind of like the plot here. And interestingly enough, eventually the guy they originally wanted to play Mulder's father was Darren McGavin from Kolchak, because they wanted Kolchak the Night Stalker to occur in the same universe. But eventually Darren McGavin guest stars as another character several seasons later.
Talking about who plays Mulder's father, Cigarette Smoking Man. The only other thing I've ever seen him in is he was in an episode of Supernatural, the very first season, which makes sense because over half the crew of X-Files went on to work on Supernatural. So Cigarette Smoking Man played a college professor who specialized in pagan lore in the season 1 episode Scarecrow, season 1 episode 11, I believe.
Yeah, I know both him and Mitch Pileggi crossing over into the Stargate universe.
The actor that played Cigarette Smoking Man was in the.
He was in the late SG-1. He was in Ori.
I probably saw him and didn't even recognize him.
Yeah, that's right.
He's done a lot of he's always been a supporting actor type guy in a lot of stuff. You know what I mean? He's never been like the last time I remember seeing him, he did a movie around 10 or 15 years ago called Behemoth, about a monster that's going to wake up and destroy the world. He played Old Mad Professor. He was in I'm trying to remember other stuff. He's always a background character, right? You know what I mean? He's never really been a star of anything. Like this is his biggest starring role, is the Cigarette Smoking Man. You know what I mean?
The cigarette smoking man.
I actually legitimately, so when I was watching this episode earlier, I had that question. I'd never had it before watching it, and that was, does Tooms target individuals he knows have healthy livers? Because that was the thought process in my head. Like, does he actively avoid drunks? So I'm so glad that you said that, Roman.
I always thought he tracked them by scent. You know what I mean? Speaking of bears, it's but it's like I always thought it was like a tracking. Like you pick compatible people that you never took just anyone's liver. Like you would always look at particular livers. You know what I mean?
I love how you said
then at the end,
bears, because nobody watching has any context. Like, why does he say "speaking of bears"? Because that was before we went live.
Well,
bears behind stage where we're talking about bears.
Yeah, despite what people think, bears hunt by scent. They have a powerful sense of scent of any animal.
Yeah,
like bears actually have very crappy eyesight.
This always freaked me out. How did he unscrew the screws from inside the vent?
That was my question. I was like, wait a second, those screws shouldn't be sticking out the other side.
No, they do.
potentially, if it's just
He's a supernatural creature,
if it's
though.
just a frame that something else sits on top of, and you put a screw through it, there would be potentially a lot of
Most from I did construction with my family as a kid. All these kits for these like grates or whatever, they use standard screws. So like that's why if you ever look on the inside of a roof, there's like an inches of nails and screws down below where you can jab yourself if you're doing work under a roof, because they use everything uses standard screw and nail lengths, and so everything on the surface it looks flat but it just sticks out on the inside, sometimes like an inch or whatever, you know. But I guess that's the thing. Like, if whatever you experience growing up, you'll have an inside knowledge on or something, you know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I've got inside knowledge on super ghouls and ghosts. Don't test me. That's what I grew up on right there. Hey, nice to see you, Copa. Appreciate you. The screws work the same for Close Encounters.
Yeah, right.
Close Encounters of the what kind exactly, though?
Which is because in this episode, Donald Logue's character says to Scully, have you ever had any close encounters with the third kind since teaming up with Spooky Mulder? So there we go. Let's tie it right back to X-Files.
And there's the dude right there.
Yep, there you go, Donald Logue. How about that?
You've seen it?
How long after this was Blade?
Like my experience from this, mostly for this dude, has been from like his role on Gotham. But I see the same mannerisms as a like kind of a cop role in this character that he still used so much later on.
Yeah, so he either got typecast real early or he just does not have a lot of range. One of the two.
How long
both?
after this was Blade?
Blade was 98, wasn't it? And this was 93,
okay.
so 5 years.
Yeah, okay.
So yeah, Glenn Morgan and James Wong, they eventually, by the way, got their own one season of something called Space Above and Beyond. It's a really good TV show if you've never seen it. It's one of the many shows that Fox gave one season to and then canceled on Friday.
I hate all the things that happens to.
Yeah, dude,
Yeah.
I remember watching Drive when it debuted and really getting invested in it. And didn't it get canceled after like 3 episodes or something?
Well, there was a sci-fi show called VR5. Then there was Strange Luck with D.B. Sweeney, which was technically in the X-Files universe. Millennium actually got 2 or 3 seasons, but only the first season was.
The Lone Gunman was also in the X-Files
Lone
universe.
Gunman,
You know why it got canceled, right?
One season.
You know why it ran into trouble though, right?
I don't know the reason. I know because
the very first episode of the show of the Lone Gunman, I believe it was the first episode, one of the first ones, but I believe the very first was about them stopping a terrorist attack on New York that was targeting the World Trade Center.
Oh yeah,
guess when that show came out. Yeah, real bad timing on that one.
Okay, so when I watched this initially, he doesn't have a glove. He doesn't have any tools on him. But then suddenly he has them, and normally my brain would say, "Oh, hold on, that's a plot hole." But then I started thinking, "No, Fox Mulder is the guy who would carry around extra gloves and a fingerprint kit in his pocket at all times."
Yeah, no, that's entirely in character. You also remember the water-powered car episode of the Lone Gunman, Right On? They had their own comic series as well, Lone Gunman. Yeah. Was it Brett Spiner? Wasn't he one of the Lone Gunmen?
Oh, no way.
Pretty sure Brett Spiner, Data and then Independence Day, I'm pretty sure he was one of the Lone Gunmen. I could be misremembering.
I only watched the show once, so I'd have to look that one up.
Oh, R2 says no. Okay, maybe I'm misremembering then.
No, because they were just on an episode of X-Files, but people liked them so much they kind of spun them off.
Yeah. Well, you're right. They weren't supposed to be a reoccurring thing. I don't believe
there was a war between those who understood that sci-fi and horror made money and the people who ran Fox who hated it. So all these shows that kept spinning off or coming up that was sci-fi and horror on Fox, they'd air for one season, and then the first people running Fox would say, cancel, no more budget, cancel, we're not renewing the contract. You know.
Yeah, imagine like they cancel shows like Firefly only to greenlight shows like that 80s show, like, which also didn't last beyond one season.
Well, it's the same thing. The people who ran way back when, because CBS, Viacom, Paramount are back in one company now, right? But they also were one company back in like the 70s and whatever. The family that owned CBS hated Star Trek, hated it, you know. So despite it making money with movies and everything, they hated it. So they suppressed all they could. That's why Star Trek went to syndication and not CBS when it came back with Next Generation. And if Star Trek had aired on CBS, it probably would have been one of the highest rated shows on CBS of all time.
Yeah, someone
I like
said,
how
who
they
was it? Was
just
it?
about-
Sorry, go on.
I like how a lot of these episodes, it starts off with something and they're like, well, let's look in the X-Files here, see if we got anything similar.
Yeah, Roman says that he loves Dana's hair here. I'll be real. I still to this day think that like this era Gillian Anderson is genuinely a gorgeous woman. Like she's not hot, but she's very pretty. You know what I mean? Like they make her look intentionally cold because she's supposed to be a law enforcement officer. But Gillian Anderson was such a pretty woman.
Well, yeah, to kind of piggyback off of what America said way earlier, it's like I kind of wanted to say, did anybody else have like an inexplicably you don't really understand the reasoning crush on early seasons Dana Scully? Because
without a doubt.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, I don't know what's happening, but it's happening.
We were talking backstage. I mentioned Xena. Man, I had the biggest crush on Lucy Lawless. Like, oh, dude, young Leon absolutely adored that woman, and I was young too. And when I finally met her in real life at a convention when I was like 16, the woman towered over me. Like she's a tall, big woman. And like, I was like, okay, that explains a lot of the fact that I like women who can beat me up. Like, okay, it's all because of Xena. I had no idea she would be that large in real life. Not large.
I mean, in the show, she looks pretty tall compared to everyone else.
I assumed that was all because they make Tom Cruise look tall in his movies. I did not realize that Lucy Lawless was actually an Amazonian.
Yeah. Well, see, back when they, cast shows like that, or, they actually, wait, if we're going to have a female action hero, maybe we should get an actress who's not a midget.
Right. Or like Rebel Moon, the skinny girl that looks like she could be blown away in the wind.
And if you're gonna do that, you have to give them blatant superpowers, like Scarlett.
Yeah, exactly.
Scarlett Johansson got blatant. I mean, she was blatantly superhuman from the beginning in the Marvel movies. Yeah. You can't do like give a tiny person Gillian Anderson's not a big woman. She's a normal size, like 5'5" or whatever, and she doesn't do anything crazy. She shoots people with a gun, and she doesn't do any crazy like stuff they have women who are midgets now doing in TV shows. You know what I mean?
She's a good actress. She hides her accent beautifully. I did not know for years that she was. That she was British.
Or to give another example,
I'm going to give you some leeway there because I just found out that she was British.
To give you a show that also did a proper female casting, you remember Fringe?
Oh man, she's taller than me. I'm 5'8".
The character in Fringe, the female character, she was like a 10-year Marine veteran before she became an FBI agent. So they cast proper. They make the character proper. You know what I mean?
Right.
It's it's that for the last 15 years, it's all gone, just gone.
Hey, Salty.
He plays jerks so well, Donald Hughes. It's amazing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I mean, he's got the face of one, if we're just being honest.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. It's just incredible. Even his resting face is it's smug,
Mm-hmm. It's the kind of face that makes you want to punch him.
Yeah.
He's got a punchable face. I love it.
That's all right, Zombie Box. We can be short together, my man. I've been told by many a person that 5'8" is very nice and average. women don't want average. Must be real. Like,
Okay, all right. Everyone above 5'6", shut up.
I mean, my husband, I think, is like 5'8", 5'6", and I'm 5'2" and a half.
it's incredible she's 5'9". That goes to show how tall David Duchovny is, because he's like 6'4" or something. He's super tall, to the point where there are several scenes throughout the show that, like, when Mulder is chasing someone down, they have to reshoot them because his legs are so long. He would catch up to them well before he actually should have in the shot, and they'd have to redo it, and he like jog or fake his run pattern because he was that long-legged.
Well,
and in the show that he would actually say to her, "Pick those little legs up."
Pick up those little legs.
Speaking of that, you guys know who Jim Brown is, the football player, right?
No, I play video games.
Okay, so he was a famous football player, right? For those who don't know in the audience, if you're like, and he became a movie star like for a while, and he was so fast though that they wouldn't film the scenes fast enough as he moved. Like there's a scene in Dirty Dozen where he has to run and drop grenades in these openings to kill a whole bunch of the Germans down there, and he outran the camera the first time he did it. So they were like, "No, go back and run slower, Jim, slower." Like, oh look, there he is.
I really like this sequence here because you get Scully. She comes out of her car, and I thought this was really nice, very minute detail that most people probably don't notice. Is when she gets out of her car, she doesn't actually close the door. She just pushes it. It's actually quiet, and then she comes up on Mulder, being basically like, "What are you doing here? He's not gonna come back here again." And I did actually, I noticed. They kind of did her dirty. They, as far as I know from my research, they, at least the early seasons, gave her a 32 gun instead of like a full, like 9mm or something with some actual oomph. Gave her a little pew pew. But
this might have been the time though when the feds were transitioning that way. You know,
well, actually, they were
nowadays they're transitioning in a very different way.
Yeah.
Yeah,
because Mulder's carrying mostly 9s, and then eventually graduates up to a Glock. He carries Beretta clones.
Gotta love the Glock though. Glock is
solid.
solid.
Were you watching their trigger fingers in this?
Oh my god!
It was something that I never would have paid attention to as a kid, but nowadays very much pay attention to. And there was a great
5 different times that guy would have gotten shot. That person would have gotten shot. That person would have gotten shot. You would have been dead because you would have got shot in the face.
This is a great questioning sequence here.
Yeah, it is.
And just throwing in the seemingly random, both the other detectives or investigators and us as the audience. It's like random things like, "Are you 100 years old?"
Yeah, and the other FBI guys are like, "Oh, those must be base questions, you know." And he's like, "Oh no,
and then later on, when they're like, he passed with flying colors, and Mulder's like, "No, he lied on insert questions here." And they're like, "Yeah, well, I had a reaction to those questions." It's like, well, look, you got either honor the polygraph or don't. You don't get to just cherry pick and choose, you know. I love how out to get Mulder they all are.
Oh yeah, they always are. And the guy playing Tooms
he does love it too. They call him spooky and stuff. He like jabs them with it. It's great.
They're not just out to get him because of the X-Files, though. I mean, the Serious Smoky Man and his faction, they're happy to investigate and only to keep it quiet. Mulder wants to investigate and put it out there, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And this is true from the competitive culture of the FBI. Like I think in this episode or the follow-up to it, they mention it. He was like a rising star. So him getting taken down opened up opportunities for them to advance, so to speak, you know? So it's kind of like, you know, that's part of the writing on the show. Whoever Carter and Morgan and Wong and the other 2 writers, I think there were 5 major writers early on, besides the 3 I mentioned. They had insight into FBI culture, as it were. You know what I mean? When they were writing the stuff. So that's another reason it was so effective and people liked it. Also, another thing that I remember this pay attention. If I mean, it's we're only watching 2 episodes, right? But if you watch early, David Duchovny's character, and this is something he did, wears deliberately sort of grungy, like non-ultra elite suits compared to the other FBI people.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, his suits always looked like he like bought them off a rack, and they needed to be slightly altered, and he just didn't care.
Yeah.
Like
they even make reference to that in the sequel episode of this. You know, when he gets out of the courtroom, when they like dismiss his statement, he's like, "Then they would have taken me more seriously if I wore the gray suit." And I was like, I showed the line. I was like, he's got some great, like his deadpan dry delivery is spot on for this sort of show. That like obviously you want to have humor in shows like this, any sort of, whether it be again Supernatural, Firefly, all these sort of supernatural or sci-fi shows always had a very dry sense of humor. I think David Duchovny nails it.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so they match the fingerprints from the like killings in the 30s.
Mm-hmm.
Crazy. It's really weird. Stretch fingers.
And that just kind of lends itself to this like kind of eldritch sort of horror of a being that this would be, that could contort himself in ways that nothing else can, murder people, eat their livers, and then go into hibernation. It just lends it to this. He's not a human. Like, he is human on the exterior. That's it.
Yeah. That concept is almost literally out of Lovecraft.
Got some mimic vibes from it.
Yeah.
You know, it's like that. It mimics people to hunt them.
Yeah, I don't remember if it's in this episode or the sequel episode, but like when he's picking up the dead animal and he's licking his fingers, there's something so like I mean, again, non-human about that.
Oh.
Yeah.
I still gag at that. When I saw that, I was like,
oh yeah,
no.
dude, it sent a shiver down my spine when I was watching it. I have R2 the Icky.
I have also R2, but that's because I have my enhanced conceal carry and they have to fingerprint you for that.
I was private security, so I had to be fingerprinted.
I was a cop, but I've also been arrested, so you know.
I may or may not have been fingerprinted for things I may or may not have done. In my youth.
I like this part where he's going down the chimney and his shoulders like just it pops and he's like,
Just some of his contortions, I'm just like,
Well, dude, it's all the sound design. Like, if it was just the visuals, you know, it'd be whatever. But they give such crisp sound design, which is something the show does as a whole and does very well. But it just, that's what hits you, man.
Yeah.
Now, just remember this next Christmas when Santa's coming down the chimney, he's doing this.
Yes, that's what Santa's doing.
I'd be lighting the fireplace
watch
on.
me dislocate my stomach.
I'd be like lighting the fireplace would be lit up constantly. Like, we're just always keeping this thing on. No one's coming down.
Mom, it's 92 degrees in the house. I don't care.
Why are all the toilet seats locked?
I don't know if this aspect
affected the ventilation systems.
I don't know if this aspect affected anybody else, but I'm mildly claustrophobic. So there's a whole nother realm of this horror bit that affects me that maybe doesn't affect everybody else.
Yeah, no, the claustrophobia thing didn't really bother me. I got used to being shoved in lockers in about 6th grade, so you know, it's like, I had to get over claustrophobia real quick.
Yeah, this scene too, where he's like getting close to the fire, you're like, he's the guy's gonna come out and grab him, and he lights the fire and it just goes out. So you think the guy's like up in the chimney, and he stands up and the guy's like right there in his face.
Yeah, it surprised me. Like, not a lot. When I say not a lot happens, what I mean is it's something I've noticed about going back and rewatching shows from the 90s where you really only got like one big action scene and it's always near the end, and the rest is a lot of slow pace, a lot of talking, a lot of just sort of methodical camera movement. It's a pacing that I really miss that we just don't get out of TV shows nowadays, because not a lot in terms of
directing, acting, and writing, back in the day.
There's more tension than there is actual excitement throughout like 35 of this 42-minute episode.
Yeah, it really lets you settle into the world that this creature exists in. I mean, without that, you just approach it like you're watching a horror movie. It's like, oh, that's the monster of the week, whatever. But this really lets you kind of feel everything that's happening around this creature.
I'm also like, the whole time I'm thinking, like, how did this creature come to be? Because like it kind of seems like he might be some sort of extraterrestrial, but it also might be that he's just a mutant.
Yeah, I assumed he was, just born that way as a mutant, because he still has like birth records and stuff like that. So I imagine that, he's just some sort of genetic freak.
Well, now my question is, how did he learn
he could live forever? And how did he learn he could eat livers to live forever? Is that just in his base genetic code? Like, how do you figure something like that out?
I always got the impression, the way they were depicting it, his behavior was instinctual.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. And there he is, being a little punk.
Yeah, we got Donald Loogie here.
Look at the sneer.
Just want to punch him in his mouth.
He was bitten by a radioactive Bill Cosby and became Jello. Oh, Lord, I love you.
Oh, no. That's just weird to think. Oh, no.
Lord.
He has really earned the king and his title of Gourd King. Like,
he really has.
Every chat he's in, he just, and his videos as well, just he's able to pull off some good wit. Let's see, where are we at in the episode now? Is this when they're talking about the fingerprints and how he had to be over 100 years old, and Scully is denying that as a possibility?
Skeptical.
This is where they're doing the microfilm or microfiche, which I surely am not the only one here who has actually used microfiche.
I've used it.
I thought so.
I haven't used it, but I've seen it.
So it's kind of a weird thing. I'm imagining most people who don't really understand that. Do you have some Dramamine line? Because these things make me seasick. Because it's, you're looking at this tiny little thing and all the tiny little movements you make trying to find the articles that you're looking for. It's just flying by so fast. And I would imagine having to stare at this for hours trying to find things would make you sick.
It gives you a headache.
Yeah.
As of 2007 or so, microfiche, like most of what was on it was still on it and not anywhere else. Now, I remember them wanting to make efforts to sort of digitize all that stuff, but I don't remember if they ever actually did all that.
Mm-hmm.
So then I find this dude.
I really like his side arc here. This cop that this retired cop who's got he's got one last case that he never solved. It's such a I want to say a tired trope, because they do it really well here, but it's a trope nonetheless. And this goes like when people make reviews or whatnot, and they talk about how insert project here is filled with tropes. I mean, I always if the trope is done well, it's a trope for a reason. And this episode it very much showcases the retired cop one unsolved case trope with expertise.
Because there are cops like that in real life. Like, the trope is based on truth. Like, so many things are like, the tropes and all of these blah, blah, blah. It's like, well, because it's based off of something that, apparently popular enough to know.
Like, because they ask, like, well, what did you see in 1963? Or what did you see in 1933? Whatever the line is. He goes, when the concentration camps were found in Germany in 1945, it was this apartment. And I was like, oh, damn. Like, it was just a really well-delivered line.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
I mean, and to me, this is at least kind of what I look at it as. He's what if Mulder never got his dues? Like, if he had to retire holding on to all these crazy theories that nobody else believed, that's this old man.
Yeah.
So this guy,
I also like that they bring him back for part 2 and actually give him, they give him, because you think they give him closure by the end of this episode. And lo and behold, there's a part 2. So clearly that closure is not there. And they respectfully bring him back and give him the legitimate closure that I think his character, he's only in 3 or 4 scenes total throughout the 2 episodes, but you still feel like he's earned that closure.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember the actor's name, and I'm still trying to hunt it down. But he was in the Flash Gordon. I love Flash Gordon. He was in the Flash Gordon series, I think, in the '60s or whatever. That actor. And I'm still trying to hunt it down. I haven't been able to get it I think there was an old VHS scan I could have bought from someone, but then I had to buy a VCR to rip it in, So it's like.
Yeah, this building they go in, you could almost smell it, because if you've ever been in a rundown building that
It has a smell.
musty, nasty smell.
Yeah, it's one of those smells where as soon as it hits you, you go, "Oh, this has taken years off my life every moment that I'm in here."
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I was playing this video game last night. It was about liminal spaces, and you get that same vibe off something like this.
Yeah.
This too, the mattress covering the wall.
And this is definitely leaning into this man's behavior is instinctual, because he's behaving more like a bug.
He's nesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, we're about to get to the part of the episode that really messed with me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Well, one of my
There's
favorite
one
lines
line that Scully says, and I was just like, ugh.
Yeah, the newspaper
Yeah, right here.
cocoon.
Which we see Mulder glove up earlier. We see it in the episode, and here he is, just all right. Let's just touch all of this paper mache skin monstrosity.
I love his response is, yeah, because she says, what was it, Jacob? She says,
bile.
Yeah.
And he just
And
responds
he's like,
is there any
wish
way
I
I
had
can get
gloves
this off
on."
my hands quickly without betraying my casual exterior?
Yeah, this is another part where the sound effects were really well done in the episode. Great sound design, because they say it's made of newspaper and bodily fluids, and it sounds like what you would imagine newspaper and bodily fluids that are holding together this crusty hut to sound like. Sorry, Mando.
I'm not normally squeamish, but I'm just like, it's like they're describing how it smells, and you see how it feels, and I'm just like, they're just covered in poop. It's just liquid poop. That was the whole thing. The whole time I'm thinking, I'm like, diarrhea. It's just diarrhea. They're playing in diarrhea.
Americus, you only have to do that in modern art.
And then the part where she's like, "Oh,
hey, what's up, Papa Sasquatch?"
Then
Nice to
as
see you,
they're
my
going
man.
out of this place,
I mean,
going out of this place, it's like, "Oh, I'm hung up on something. Oh, I'm okay now. I got through it."
Oh yeah, that was a nice touch.
Shows the guy's hands with her necklace. It's like, uh-oh.
Yeah, I guess maybe there's something broken in my brain, but they were describing everything that it smells like, and it's bile and all this, and I'm just sitting here kind of thinking like, what would that smell like? And I'm trying to break it down.
Oh yeah, there's certainly something broken in your brain. Absolutely. Grow some hair. Maybe that will help.
I have it here and back here, just not here.
Well, bile is mostly water, so it's not going to smell very much at all.
I've thrown up enough times as bile only to know there's a scent to it. Like there's
Well, that's the other stuff mixed in with it, but pure bile is like I don't know, 90% water or something.
We are gonna make Mando faint on stream if we keep going.
Oh no, I'll be fine. I'll be fine. It's just like I said, that's the image that I described to you is what keeps popping up in my head. It's just a pile.
The scientifically curious in me now wonders why they picked bile for this, because like, you know, I was able to suspend my sense of disbelief, but it should be kind of urging the dissolution of some of those newspaper aspect, you know, like it's something that I don't remember exactly. I know it does something to fats. I don't remember everything else it does, but it's not something that preserves. It's something that like dissolves, helps you digest and all that. So I'm like, what was their logic in picking bile?
There
are certain animals that do things like that. I can't remember off the top of my head. It's mostly some sort of insect, but they do something very similar to what this guy is doing.
It felt so gross to take a drink after this conversation. I won't even lie, but that tea just didn't feel like tea. And I know it's in my head, but
bile.
Fermented.
Well, at some point in life, most people have eaten some liquor.
This guy, man, he's just.
I still want to punch him in the face.
This guy's really nasty. I know.
You know, I think in a lot of things he
calls off
he's a
stick out
punchable
of this
character.
guy.
You say he's a what character?
A punchable character.
Oh, absolutely. Like you said, you from Gotham, and that's I think where he was like first on my radar as well by name. And don't get me wrong, he plays the role exceedingly well of Harvey, whatever his name is. But he's a douche in that as well. I don't know if I've ever seen him not play a dirtbag. And I love seeing Scully go off on him here. Like she just so calmly puts the banhammer down. And she's like, you know what? When you climb up to the top of that ladder, I hope you fall on your And I was like, oh,
I hope you fall on your ass.
Lay down the law, Scully.
Well, the reason he didn't become a regular on SVU was because of Gotham. So,
he definitely picked the much better show.
I don't know. What are you talking about?
I can't handle SVU. Like SVU is one. I've usually got a pretty strong stomach for stuff. SVU is one of the few things where it makes my insides feel like I'm rubbing jeans or something. Ugh.
I never liked Gotham. I just,
I think the raccoons have attacked.
The raccoons have struck again.
Hey, what's up, Wheel Snakes? Appreciate you seeing you here, my man.
Are you there, Jacob, or are we covering? I think we're covering. So, everyone, how do you like the X-Files?
Off and on. Off and on.
We're getting watching the episodes has gotten me jazzed to genuinely do a rewatch of the series, and yes, that includes the seasons 7 and 8, where it's Robert Patrick and what's her name. I think Doggett was an underrated character. People hated on Doggett purely because he wasn't Mulder, not because he was actually a bad character.
I don't have a problem with the actors later in the series. I have a problem with the fact that Carter. See, there's this type of show. There's like the show like Lost, where they never explain anything, you hate it at the end, or like Fringe, where they come to a satisfying conclusion. And this show became like Lost. After like the 4th or 5th season, I'm okay with mystery boxing stuff, but answer the old mysteries and make new ones. Don't just keep taking the old mysteries and circling the toilet bowl, as I call it, over and over and over again.
I feel like they do answer the mysteries, but they always use the same generic answer of, it was a government
then they wipe it
cover-up.
out. Like the end of the show answered the mystery. There's supposed to be an alien invasion. Fast forward to the follow-up. Where's that alien invasion? I mean, even the spinoff, like Millennium. The first season of Millennium is one of the best seasons of anything you watch on TV, right? But then they basically wrap Millennium is supposed to lead into the same apocalypse that this show is leading into, right? They end Millennium by canceling the apocalypse in X-Files in an X-Files episode like season 9 or something like that.
Gord King at it again. I like the idea that Fox has a file on him called the Mulder folder. And we read that file while we drank our Folgers.
Yeah, we're about to get some more bile.
By the
here.
way, this show, if we mentioned it before, this show takes place in the same universe as Law and Order. Munch.
Wait, what?
Munch is on this
It
show.
does.
You remember?
Is that canon? Does this actually take place in the same universe as Law and Order?
The same Detective Munch is on Law and Order, Homicide, and this. It's called the Saint Elsewhere Metaverse, basically, or something like that, where there's like hundreds of TV shows that people, because the showrunners keep crossing over characters or referencing things in the other shows, they're part of a big expanded TV universe.
I did not
How
know
about that? It seems like
Blowing
they're
my mind right now.
Yeah, go look up when you have time, like Leon. I know because you're young, you might not have seen this yet. TV show like metaverses or whatever. The Saint Elsewhere one is gigantic.
Yeah, I just looked it up. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Huh, how about that?
Yeah, they wanted to do it. There was a TV show called Picket Fences where X-Files is supposed to cross over. And Mulder is supposed to Mulder and Scully was supposed to go to the town and picket fences because they had a plot line picket fences where someone was experimenting on cows. And at the last minute, CBS, who hates science fiction, and Fox agreed not to cancel the crossover.
If you want to talk about crossovers, there was this really great limited run X-Files comic book series where they crossed over. It was 4 issues. Each issue was a different crossover. It was the X-Files meets Ghostbusters, X-Files meets the Transformers, X-Files meets who were the others? I think Godzilla was one of them.
Well, yeah, in
in
comics that's much easier because you can just write it. But TV shows, there's all these rights issues.
I'm saying for any X-Files fan, it's super cool. Like if you ever want to see what would happen if Mulder and Scully met the Ghostbusters, there's a comic for that, and it's awesome.
Yeah,
really cool.
So the trigger, the trigger discipline here. If you look,
this is why
he's already got it on the trigger, ready to pull. Yet someone pops up behind her and she doesn't shoot him.
But compare that to earlier when you see Mulder, who is actively keeping his hand off the trigger. And I noticed the difference between the two. I was like, I can't tell if that's intentional to show the differences of their characters or if Gillian Anderson just doesn't know how to handle guns and Mulder does.
Well, she's from Britain. She probably
the UK, right?
Yeah.
Probably.
I'm so happy that I'm not the only one to notice these kind of things anymore.
Like that should have been a shot. That should have been a some sort of noise.
Yeah.
And one of the things that's funny,
and it would have been so easy. You wouldn't even had to fire a gun. Just set off a squib.
Ever since this episode, because I work in construction as a kid. Every time I saw the legacy of the old heating systems like that, where
one of them was X-Files with Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. Just throwing that out there. That was the other one I couldn't remember. And The Crow was the last one.
Oof.
I like the way he springs out of the hole in the wall.
Oh, that's such a good shot. That's another thing that these pair of episodes did really well was so they would give him the yellow eyes, obviously, yellow contacts, and he would blink and they'd be gone. So obviously they have to split the shot, but it's so well put together that it looks like it looks real. He just blinks, head down, come back up, the contacts are gone. Relatively simple to do, but still appreciated nonetheless.
Yeah, this is why you always have a spare bathroom gun. I'm just saying.
Yeah, a bathroom gun.
Always.
I have bathroom knives.
Everything I saw that this guy was in after this, I just couldn't. He creeped me out.
He does a really good kind of.
Well, some actors know their
primordial, animalistic sort of face.
Yeah. And they got him.
So my main question / I guess I consider this a slight plot hole. Why didn't he use his contorting capabilities and just squeeze himself out of the handcuff?
Yeah. I don't know.
I always thought maybe
this,
because he was trying not to display his abilities type of thing.
shows the old detective looking at the paper, and then it transitions to.
Thank you
Because
for
that's
that.
what he's doing.
Now, here's some interesting speculation before we get to the next episode, right? So, obviously, he's still establishing the mythos of the show at this point, right? But we know by the time the 5th season or so is around, that the cigarette smoking man would send his goon to take people out to cover them up. So, if this were later, would we have seen a visit from, remember the alien goon of the cigarette smoking man showing up and just taking Tooms out before the second episode even can happen? You think about how the show's mythology evolved. That's pretty interesting. Like when you go back and watch the show after you've seen the whole thing, and then think about the early episodes before the mythology is in place, like what would have changed? If they knew ahead of time what they knew about.
Yeah. So there's episode 1, the squeeze.
Yep, and we get a nice monologue. That's a running theme and running. I don't know if you say running joke, but like the end of the episode, Scully will ask a question and Mulder will go on this monologue completely unrelated to the question she asked. You see that all the time, and I love it.
Yeah.
It's like, stay in your lane. Let me talk. Mulder is the patriarchy confirmed.
Yes, definitely.
He really is.
Yeah.
The patriarchy, always the hindrance to us women going forth in life.
Yeah, he's not only is he always explaining everything to Scully, he's questioning her whether she wants to be places and things like that. It's fine, whatever, it works.
I will say in his defense, usually he's doing it because he doesn't want to see her sacrifice her career for him, which I can appreciate that he cares, but yeah, no, he's.
I also remember early on, he knows she's a plant from the powers that be at this point.
He has no
trust relationship with her early on yet.
Yeah, they haven't really built and established like legitimate trust yet.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess it is weird when you've seen the X-Files and you go back and watch those the older episodes and you realize that, oh right, they weren't always buddy and things like that. Like there was a time where it was just, it's a job, I've got to put up with this harlot,
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, what happened in that first episode when she backed him up with the reports and all that, that's part of establishing the trust relationship. It took more episodes to establish,
Right.
Yeah, there was that line where I guess it was an annoying line, so I'm assuming it was Donna Logue's character of like, what side are you on? And she said the victims.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like, oh, okay, I like that because like she doesn't really want to be there, but she still finds value in doing the right thing, even if she's on the team that's the kind of the outliers.
I like what she tells him. I hope the ladder you're climbing up, you fall on your backside. It's great.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And Donald Logue doesn't come back for the sequel episode, I don't think, does he?
I don't think so.
No, he's only in that one episode of X-Files.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's in his cell trying to get to the.
And then like his fingers
like-
also start stretching.
Yeah.
I like to think that he's tried this multiple times, and he's like learning how to get to it and stuff.
Yeah, I will say we can't suck the show up the whole time. I don't think this effect aged very well. Maybe it was just watching it on streaming on a nice HD TV, but this effect was one of the few that I was like, oh, that it doesn't really look convincing. In fact, both of them are in this episode because there's also near the end when he's trying to frame Mulder, and so he gets into Mulder's house. The stop motion on the screws unscrewing in the vent. I was like, Nightmare Before Christmas had better stop motion than that. Like that was a little rough.
Yeah, but a long time ago, I started saying to myself, I'm talking when I was like 15 or 16, if I went with that whole old stuff, special effects looks bad, I'd never watch anything from before like 1980 or whatever. You know what I mean?
Right.
You gotta like, to me, I always got to say, submerge myself in the story and like try to say the effect trying to tell the story. Then you could forgive the fact that, like the Daleks, early Daleks look like pepper pots or whatever. You know what I mean? You just kind of mentally. Yeah. So this is him, Ben, whatever. I can't. I looked his name up less than 20 minutes ago, and my brain just lost it. Ari Ben David, but he goes
Balding Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Right.
If you've never watched the Sci-Fi Invisible Man, it's 2 seasons. You should go watch it because he's amazing in it, and the show is really cool for 2 seasons. And of course, it gets canceled, But
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
I liked that show. That was a good. I like the one with the Bigfoot, and Bigfoot can actually turn invisible. That's why people can't see him.
yeah, but
Paul
I
Ben
won't
Victor.
spoil the show. Yeah, Paul Ben Victor.
Sorry.
Yep. Yeah. No, I'm saying you could. I can't comment. I want to comment on it, but I can't because it would spoil the show so much.
Yeah, yeah, it's definitely worth a watch, man. It's
Yep.
good. It's a good series.
Yeah.
So yeah,
there is something in this.
They find a
oh, sorry,
loophole.
Juan.
No, you go ahead.
So there's something in this episode that maybe I'm just too dumb to get, or maybe it's an intentional callback. So, like, 'cause in the first episode, Mulder says, he wouldn't go back there. That's not his MO. And lo and behold, he goes back. And so in this episode, Mulder says, he wouldn't go after the old couple. That would be too obvious. He hasn't survived this long by being dumb. He's very smart. Well, wouldn't it also be obvious for the homeboy for him to go after the therapist? And lo and behold, that's what happens at the end. Is he gets his 5th liver from the therapist. I was sitting here like, did they have Mulder be wrong twice just to showcase that there's still gaps in Mulder's knowledge, or is that just bad writing? Like, I couldn't tell which it was.
I think it was.
Well, I think it was also like him basically becoming desperate, and that's just when he just lost all of his self-control. He just walked in at the wrong time.
Gotcha.
Yeah, because Mulder had in the entirety of this episode been a barrier to every other time where he was kind of sniffing out his victims, and the one time that he wasn't there to stop him. And kind of like we talked about previously, he's acting so much on instinct as a creature, less of a human. At a certain point, his human judgment kind of starts to fade, at least in my mind.
Yep, no, that's fair enough. That explains it enough for me. I probably should have been able to put that together myself, but again, I'm a moron, so.
No, what noggin? Skinner's noggin? Yep.
Another underrated
Shame.
actor. I've seen him again. You see him and he's not a one-off character. He's a supporting character in this, supporting character in Supernatural, which again makes sense because a lot of the same cast. But like you see him pop up in TV shows from Stargate. That's another good Stargate Atlantis. But you never see him really in a main role. I couldn't even tell you his name without looking it up.
Mitch,
he's a good actor.
Yeah, he is.
Yeah, and both those two guys, whatever it is, they aged to a certain point and they kind of just stopped and stayed there for 20 years.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, because this was 93, and then Cigarette Smoking Man was in the episode Supernatural in 2005. So you got 12 years. He hardly looks different, like a few more wrinkles,
He's got
maybe.
One of those faces. He's also done voice acting too. He's a voice actor. You've heard his voice around all over.
Really?
Yeah.
I know. I didn't know that. Now Gillian Anderson has voice acted in at least one.
In one of the Batman TV shows, he plays Commissioner Gordon. I don't remember which one though.
Oh, I could see that working real well. Hey, that's another Batman tie-in right there. We've got Donald Loge who went on to play Harvey, whatever, and that works.
Yeah, so they're. I guess they only got Tooms on attacking Scully.
Yes,
they couldn't really pin the others. So
anything else on him. It was just the assault of Scully.
Well, not that they couldn't, but the cigarette smoking Lynn wasn't going to let him be prosecuted for any of that stuff because it would expose the information you don't want exposed.
I mean, to be fair, even if Cigarette Smoking Man wasn't, pulling stuff behind the scenes, I don't think a lot of what Mulder is saying would hold up in court. I think they would have trouble prosecuting him for these supposed murders that happened over the course of 100 years. Looking at him.
Yeah. It
doesn't matter how concrete a fingerprint is. Trying to say that this is the same person from 100 years ago, that stretches a lot of credulity.
Even the recent murders that they couldn't get him for, they would have trouble proving that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's why they made the right choice to kill him off at the end of this episode, as opposed to have him, go back to prison or the psychiatric house or whatnot. Like that's really the only way this could feasibly end. Otherwise, just sitting there wondering, like, hey, why were they able to put this guy away? And
think of why they would suppress it, right? So if it went to trial with all the murders, think of all the scientific testimony on both sides in public information, which would expose so much else that they don't want revealed. You know what I mean? Like, so it's like fingers in the dam, right? This is one of the fingers, So
it seems like the FBI and the TV shows have a lot more faith in humans than the FBI in real life.
Bruh, I was thinking the same thing. I was like, FBI nowadays, just like, man, they think we're all idiots and
yeah, this is
Why
back
are you
when the
persecuting
TV
the
show
stretch, man?
presentation of
It's
law
bad.
enforcement was overall positive.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I mean, to be fair, Men in Black said it best with that one line. A person is smart, people are dumb, panicky animals, and you know it.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
If Tooms creeps you out, wheel snakes, then they did their job right, because that is the whole point.
Yeah.
So yeah, expertly done.
Very well done.
And here he is. He's like, would they have believed me more if I wore the
What
gray
if I wore the gray suit?
suit?
Well, like, and also say for like 2 seconds that this guy is a mutant. What would that mean for us as like just like regular people on the street? Are you saying that a mutation that can do that to a normal person? And like, what? It'd become weaponized and all sorts of things and experiments and
Humans kind of hesitancy to accept something so wild like that, something so out of our normal, that it really is kind of just like Mulder's downfall. Because as we saw, he went to this bail hearing or this parole hearing, and he didn't just like walk up with easily, understandable and believable, digestible facts. He went all in with everything, all the crazy. And that's
But that's his goal.
Yeah, that's his
goal is to
in this
expose
scene
this
right
stuff.
here. Yeah, he says, she's like, well, you came off, and he interrupts. She's like, I don't care how I came off. I care about the truth, Scully, or something to that effect.
Yeah.
He's like, I definitely appreciate his convictions, but his methodology sucks.
Yeah, I mean, it is the core of his character, which is also the core of his character flaw, is he doesn't know when to pull back.
Well, he doesn't understand at this point what he's up against yet either. As far as he knows, he thinks it's just that no one's willing to listen, but he doesn't understand there's an active suppressing effort going on worldwide,
He didn't get that the X-Files are in a basement and they threw him down there with the X-Files because they didn't want this stuff coming out.
Well, I also think it's just a matter of they didn't think one dude alone would be able to, even if there was no suppression at all, they didn't have the faith that, one dude's going to expose us, whatnot. It's just, he ain't the FBI version of Julian Assange hunting aliens,
Yeah, right. Especially because he's from training. People have been calling him spooky. So it's like, nobody's going to believe him. Just throw him down there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, this creepy.
And then the look he gives right here.
Like, look at me, and they think that you're the crazy one. I'm actually the crazy.
No. He reminds me of a cat. You know what I mean?
Smug and superior.
Yeah, right.
Exactly.
I'm going to look something up. Animals.
Yeah, if you thought the bile was bad, there's a scene coming up here.
Yeah, this part right here.
Oh, there it is right there.
Just licking his chops after touching what was it? Was it a dead rat or a dead bird? It was.
I thought it was a dead cat. Or he picks up the dead cat.
Yeah. But I think it's a rat here in this first part.
I did wonder why he always came back to like animal control sort of jobs. Like if that was like a holdover, like if he used animals as a temporarily reprieve to his desire to go after people.
I think he needs the human livers to do something, survive, hibernate, whatever.
Right.
Yeah, but I think he eats. The impression we're getting is he's not really human. He's just wearing a human skin.
Mm.
So whatever predatory animal he is inside, you know, or predator or alien life form or Lovecraftian horror or whatever, like you know what I mean? That's the nature of him, is that he's predatory.
This shot, I love what when you're
Yeah.
looking at, she's in color, everything else is in black and white. Flips back to Tooms, it's all in color. Flips back to her, black and white, except for her. And they do it like 2 or 3 times. I loved that.
Yes, very well done.
Copa says, I don't want to ruin the X-Files for you guys, but aliens.
Copa, dude, come on.
We had no idea, Copa, and now you have just made us all sad, and now there will be wailing and gnashing of teeth.
We need to ban Copa for life from chat.
The best response to that is Predator 2, an effing alien.
But when it comes to the black and white stuff, I imagine, like, because there's always that wives' tale that dogs see in black and white. So I imagine that's why they were doing it, to show that sort of like carnal, animalistic, like he just sees the one target, the rest of the world is you know, black and white to him. And it's
Right.
Again, I don't know if that's what they were going for, but that's how I took it, and I thought it was awesome.
Yeah, well, I mean, I guess I didn't really think into it that far, but it was more kind of just like a predatory thing where, like, he sniffed in on one scent and then everything else just kind of blacked out. Like he didn't care about anything else.
Like she has a liver that he needs. In other words, the other ones don't. So it's essentially saying, I need her liver, you know?
Well, I think the animal control thing is, you know, who's going to pay attention to an animal control truck?
Mm-hmm.
You know, it's just, it's something normal you see. He's like, I have a, what kind of dog was it? Like this obscure dog.
Oh, I forgot.
I'm sure. Yeah, I'm trying to remember as well.
Excuse me.
I don't know if y'all can hear that or not.
Yeah, there was sound.
Could you help me find my dog?
I'll have to do it slow so I don't get flat.
It's a very specific breed.
That's funny.
He's a Norwegian elk hound.
There we go, Norwegian elk hound.
I use it for hunting moose.
Yeah.
I gotta look that up. I wonder what that dog looks like.
I want it to be a fake dog. I hope it's not even a real dog. Because we were talking before the stream about how massive and terrifying moose were. So if there's a dog that can hunt moose, I'm out.
It's the national dog of Norway.
So it's real. Okay.
There are a lot of big dogs out there.
Does it look like a wolfhound?
It looks kind of husky-ish.
Like there are some big dogs.
Share the image.
Oh, here, let me just send you a link. I don't know.
Okay.
StreamYard.
Considering how much of the show was shot in Canada, it makes sense he would use it for hunting moose.
Yeah.
But they don't seem to be that huge, actually. Only 44 to 51 pounds.
They probably have multiple, so they can work as a pack.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
It probably just goes to hamstring the thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a medium-sized dog.
Good-looking dog, if you ask me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. Kind of like a husky a little bit.
Yeah.
Hey, Jacob, you'll be pleased to know that the calendar reminder I set to myself at 8 o'clock for your show, Google has just now at 9:20 reminded me of your show at 8 o'clock.
Oh, that's nice.
I didn't mean to completely derail everything by looking up a dog, but I like dogs.
It doesn't look like a husky. All right. A fluffy husky, but a husky nonetheless.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like a husky cross German Shepherd, maybe Belgian, something like it's got a weird pattern to it, but yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
As long as it's not a Polish dog crossed with a German Shepherd, I think we're all right.
That was great. Sorry.
Anyway, back to the horror
Yes.
and YouTube.
We just wanted to know what dog Tooms was looking for, for Mulder. So that, here's this guy again.
Mm-hmm.
He's like, if you don't catch him now, you'll be about my age next time.
Yeah, and honestly, for the beginning of the episode, the beginning of the first one, when he said that he was a sheriff in 33, I was like, what? There's no way he'd be alive. And I was like, oh, wait, the show takes place in 93. Okay, never mind. This all checks out mathematically. Right. I had to do some math while watching the show to make sure that I wasn't insane.
I mean, two things can be true at once.
Fair enough.
And an interesting thing about that is 1933 was right in the mix of when like Lovecraft and Robert E. Howard and the others were creating this sort of otherworldly monster, mysterious creature, lost stuff. That was the period that this sort of thing first arose from in the fictional sense.
Yeah, this is cool. Like,
oh, no, okay, this is where they're checking on the if they can find the body, the old mill, right?
Yep. The one missing person that was never found.
I like what she says here. It's like when they scan the floor, they what was it, estimate or something?
He's like, they guess?
You mean guess?
Mm-hmm.
An educated guess. Like, even she doesn't sound so sure of herself when she says it.
Right.
Well, it also goes with the theme of like, so when they say like proper procedures and logical thinking and blah, 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 it just puts that seed of doubt of maybe we don't know everything. Maybe like.
Well, it also plays off what he said in the prior scene, because he's the one that told her about this mill, and she's like, how do you know it was there? He goes, a hunch, a good old-fashioned hunch. And like that's like, I was a sheriff in the 30s. We didn't have this fancy technology. You followed your gut. And I was like, and that plays into here in just a few minutes when he just rolls over to this, and he's like, this is the spot. And there's no reason he should have known that other than he's still got those detective instincts, 60 years later.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I really like it, because at first I questioned this moment. I was like, why would he know this? What are the odds of that? And then I was like, I thought back to the previous scene. I was like, okay, actually, that's a really cool way to have done this scene.
Well, also, like, he's not just rolling around just to roll around. He's examining, he's looking, he's figuring out the most likely spot anyway. And so when you're already looking for it, you see it.
Yeah, right.
Roman says that's the hymn of characters. The wheelchair-bound old cop. I love it.
Yeah. Hey, it's Ironside. That's who it is. It's like right here.
Because of seeing Jacob with the the way he's got the head thing in his avatar, I for the longest time before I ever streamed with any of you guys thought that he and Roman were the same person. It took me a while to realize that they are in fact separate people.
Wow.
Even similar.
And he was right.
Icon. Yep. He sees this guy in color.
Oh, those shoulder pads.
Right? That was the whole time, this whole scene. I'm like,
90s.
oh, those are shoulder pads.
That guy is aiming for some Zack style shoulders, and he is not making it.
It just makes his whole head look off because it's like up here and it makes him look like he doesn't really have a neck.
And the
I guess
car,
necks
too.
weren't in.
In my opinion, one of the ugliest Mustangs.
Yeah, I've got a sore spot with Mustangs because that was my high school mascot, and every single person had one of them. It's like I used to love these cars, and now I hate them.
Why?
See, it was similar in my high school, but it was always like the Mustang to me for the people that drove them in my high school were like, oh, this is what the poor kid really saved up for his whole time just to flex like he was able to try and look good, to try and feel like he was part of the football player crowd when everyone knew he wasn't. It's like I had a moped. I didn't give a damn. So
I had a rusted out pickup that somebody bought off me for $500 so they could take it to Mexico.
So I had a rusted out pickup, and then I remember specifically I bought it for $500, and I lived on a street that like had a curve to it, and a brand new at the time, like 2012 or whatever, 4x4. Dude was texting and driving and didn't take the turn, and he just T-boned my truck. So I had to buy a new car, and it was a 94 Chevy Beretta, and I loved that little car, man.
Yeah.
Speaking of T-boning, I had this happen with me and my parents driving down the road. In front of us is a police car. Or no, in front of us is this pizza delivery guy. And a police car crosses in front, and the pizza delivery guy doesn't even see it and just plows right into the police car.
Oh,
Runs a red light.
Dude, I feel so sorry for the person that got their pie late. 30 minutes or it's free, but you know.
And when they got it, it was all smushed up on one side of the box too. It's just, that is a crime.
I saw a video on YouTube where it was like one of those short videos where the cop arrested a dude, but then delivered the DoorDash he was delivering.
Oh, I saw that too. That was hilarious.
Yeah,
that's a great video.
So yeah, they find bones here and a ring.
You know, I really appreciate that not long before he wheels himself off to go find the spot and just his conviction hits. There was a line just kind of in passing about like the reason being for like his gut feeling. And then he just goes off and trusts his gut feeling. And I like that for that character. Like he gets right to the spot, and he just says, "This is it," and he's staking his claim, saying, "This is it right here," and then it happens to be it. And it's like that is perfect.
Well, it goes to show what you can do with characters that have minimal screen time. You can give them believable motives and fleshed out stories with only, again, I think he's only in like 4 scenes between the 2 episodes, and he feels like a full character.
Yeah.
Right.
And I think part of that probably kind of falls back on the fact, at least to me, that his character seems to overlap so much with Mulder's, and just like going down paths that other people wouldn't, and people dismiss you as a quack or whatever, but holding on to this belief. And I think that kind of helps his character kind of be fleshed out because it kind of overlaps so much.
Which is crazy. I don't think he and Mulder share screen time at all in this episode. I think it's only Scully he interacts with.
No, it's just that character type that I think kind of overlaps.
You hit the nail on the head.
Well, remember I mentioned it before. The guy was a sheriff in the 30s. If you read all the stories like Lovecraft, Howard's pulp stuff, and all that, it's always not the regular cops who kind of supernatural. It's always the old sheriffs of the communities in the hills, and who have to deal with that stuff. And the cops, when the cops show up, they're like, "Oh, go talk to the sheriff." They don't even want to hear about it. It's an interesting sort of trope. The writers for this show
right here.
were
He
well aware
goes
of
up
this
to
stuff
the
when they did it.
van and looks in it and then walks off. What was that, Matt?
I'm saying the writers of the show were well aware of all the genre's tropes when they did it and incorporated them very well, especially in the first 5 or 6 seasons.
Yeah.
Yeah. I love this part. Mulder goes up to the van and opens it and looks in it and walks off. And then it just pans down to the the sewage. So he's like right there.
That's gotta be. Thank you.
The dude lives in his own bio. You think he cares?
I didn't think about that.
When someone else's.
This actress is hot. That's all I have to say.
And cleaning out the toilet when he's
Are you
trying to
kidding?
come
A
in.
woman who works
and-
like that and is
and-
attractive, marry this woman right now.
I literally questioned. I was like, why is she not calling for her husband? Like, I had that thought while I was watching. I was like, oh, maybe I'm the misogynist. Like,
And to her credit, she didn't just do a plunger. She goes straight to the drain snake. That's some thinking right there.
Yes. Yeah, it is. She's like, I'm not going to call my husband. I got this.
That's me in a nutshell. It's like I would rather die than admit that I need help. I'm a strong,
I mean,
independent woman.
If this woman could cook right away, mother of my children, all 17 of them.
for the one thing she can't ever do is open the pickle jar.
I was
That's
about
gotta
to
be her
say,
kryptonite.
Lord help the pickle jar that Mando comes across that she can't open because we all know it's just going to get smashed.
I actually have done that before, yes. There was one time because there's an old trick where you use a butter knife and you tap the top and you use it to loosen it to where you can open it up. But there was one time that trick did not work. And so I stabbed the top of the pickle jar. It still wouldn't twist. And so I took the knife out and I smashed it.
I had to do that with a bottle of wine one time. I had a girl over for a first date, and I was like, "Yeah, let's pop some wine." And realized I drink whiskey. I don't have a bottle opener, and so I just had to start taking a butter knife and just start trying to, and the cork going down in the wine. I'm like, you know what? Screw it. We're already here. Let's have some cork wine. Have fun, really.
Yup. Yes,
just
I have
pulling that
done
out of the
stupid things
toilet
many a
and just
times.
Water going, "Ah."
Ugh.
And she's smart enough to put the lock on the toilet too.
Well, they also
Well,
have
and
small children.
Well, see,
Yeah,
that's a
that
great
was actually
detail,
a really-
that you actively see the baby.
Yep.
So
That was a really nice storytelling thing here, is because you get the dismissive husband, so she's having to do this, and then she's having to stop doing that to go deal with the kids. But that also sets up the fact that why they would even have a toilet lock. It's
Mhm.
it's classic, really good storytelling.
Right.
It sets everything up for what you need. It sets the characters. It tells you everything without having to sit you down, pat you on the head, get you a little ice cream, and say, "All right, let me tell you how this works."
well, and it also is a show because this is the therapist house, correct? And yeah, I assume it's not just some random also balding dude. This was the therapist, and at the end of the episode,
yeah.
Oh, go on.
Yeah, I think it is actually just a random other balding dude,
Oh, okay, guys.
because we haven't gotten to that. We haven't gotten to that yet.
Yeah, I think the therapist.
Well, yeah,
was
because
target of
it's a
opportunity.
good thing the therapist died because you could clearly tell this was headed for divorce if that was the case. So he
This
got
is-
out easy
this
getting his
is the
liver carved
Mustang.
out.
Well, she clearly didn't
This is
marry
the
an
Mustang
Italian man.
driving bald guy.
Yeah.
And look, poo fingerprints.
Oh yeah, because he gets blocked out of the sewer. That's one of the. I mean, he's already crawling through the sewer drain, and then he has to crawl back out of the sewer drain. Is now leaving poop fingerprints everywhere.
Which I mean, granted, I know forensics was not quite like what it is nowadays, but fingerprints, his own blood, so much evidence that would have, if anybody would have just compared DNA strands or blood samples, would have been oh, this all matches one person.
Yeah.
Well, they bring that up though. It's when I don't remember if it's at the beginning of this episode or when there's at one point Mulder and Scully are having a deliberation, and Mulder's like, not only is it the same fingerprints, it's the same, and he lists up everything, and she's just like, man, genetics, must have had a great grandfather. And I was like, how are you dismissing identical? I know that's your job to be the skeptic. I understand, but at some point you gotta throw your hands up, and be like, all right, you win, Mulder.
Mm-hmm.
Well, maybe part of the whole cognitive dissonance. I mean, it's hard, even in real life, with just real world stuff. It's hard to accept everything when you encounter it. And so imagine this science fiction, supernaturals. think about this, right? And I'm not treading on anyone's religious beliefs or anything that you might have, right? But we're still all sitting here, right? Like what if, like, to every one of our rooms, an actual alien walked in right now? You know what I mean? Like, all sitting here and watching it. Which of us would believe this? We would all think it's fake. You know what I mean? And then we'd look like,
I have a hard time believing someone who jumped the Mexican border would be walking into Beard Liberty's house.
Yeah.
It wouldn't be healthy to do so.
What I'm getting is the human willingness to disbelieve stuff is amazing. You know?
I mean, and I totally get that, but maybe I'm just naive or gullible. But if someone said to me, "Yeah, the blood type, the fingerprints, the DNA, all matches this dude from 100 years ago," I'd have to concede and be like, "Well, dang, I guess the guy's 100 years old. I mean, you got all the evidence. It sounds insane, but the evidence is there. Like, I don't know."
Yeah.
I don't get all my logic from Joe Rogan, but that right there, I believe it, you know?
Well, I mean, like there's a point where if you want to be an actual logical human being, there's a point where if this is if this is where the logic is going, you'd be dumb not to believe it.
Right.
That's true, but as we heard before, people are stupid.
Yeah.
I've heard a
Yeah,
lot of people talk about how
I feel
people
sorry
are
for
stupid oh, sorry, what?
I feel sorry for the little gray man that comes into Beard's house.
I feel like Beard would probably domesticate like a little gray man, though. You'd be like, "Oh, it's so cute." Here.
Imagine if the alien Steve Irwin came in to film a video in Beard's house right now. That would be so cool.
Crikey. This one's called a beard.
He'd be holding up his beard on the alien
you
camera.
Spacefaring wanderer. Let me teach y'all all about the rights to free speech and the rights to bear arms. Like, I'm going to show you aliens the Constitution.
Well, Beard,
welcome to Earth. Let's eat some brisket.
The alien's going in his language. This beard could be a mating thing for all we know.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Yes.
I greet them like my people.
So they're like,
All right, so is this the part
Yeah.
where they're swapping out for the stakeout? Mulder's getting tired. He's going home. Is that what's happening here?
yeah.
Oh yeah,
yeah,
she's
And
she's trying to
see the truck.
Yeah, she's
see the
bringing the
trunk of the
logic
car
where
close.
it's like you've been awake for 3 days, and as somebody who not necessarily willingly has been awake for 2 or 3 days at times in my past, you start to see things, and
Yeah.
so that's
This
good
is
advice.
just me. I would notice the trunk open.
yeah, we watched decades of TV shows of people hiding in your trunk to kill you. I don't think Mulder and Scully have.
No, not yet.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah,
That
we find
would
out in
just
later
kinda go-
seasons that Mulder grew up on the Twilight Zone. So
Yeah, this is before you had cars that told you the trunk is still open.
Now, I'm just one of those people that just kind of assumes somebody's in my back seat before I open the door, so I take a look first.
see, I do that now. I never used to. I figured I'm a man. People won't do things to me. That only happens to women. Then I got drugged at a party one time and robbed, and I was like, oh, I guess like the only saving grace is not being a woman is I didn't get human trafficked. I just got robbed. So I'm going to start checking this sort of stuff now.
Yep.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think about some of the things that us women have to think about.
Why do you think I grew my hair out? It's so I can understand your culture.
I'm not really sure to understand yours.
Oh,
All right,
Maybe
Mando.
that's what all
Now, if
those
you want to
bald women are
understand
doing.
our culture, I'm just saying.
If I could grow a beard like that, you don't understand how upset I am. This is the best I can do. Like,
I'm jealous of your hair, so shut up.
I mean, you just don't understand. Like, I have a translucent beard. Like, don't you know? Like, you just can't see it.
I had forgotten this part of the episode. I was genuinely curious what he was doing here. And then when you eventually find out, like the next scene or whatever, I was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay. Because I'm watching this part and I'm like, what is he what's he doing? I completely forgotten where this episode goes.
This actually kind of reminded me of that story from the movie Fury, where Shia LaBeouf would scratch open a wound on his face the entire filming of the film, because he's weird and method like that. But that's kind of like the same feeling I got from this. It was just like staring there, just like, all right, here we go. This is going to do it.
Sadako says Tooms trying to defund the police here. Eugene Tooms, the OG BLM activist.
This is a nice little transition too, because we get it completely subverts what you think is about to happen.
Yeah.
Because we get the previous scene, we get to this, and we're given no explanation on how he got here, why he's here, until like right there at the end. I think the raccoons are attacking again.
Yeah,
Right
the
there at the
raccoons
end.
have invaded.
This break has been brought to you by our furry raccoon friends.
They're not friends. But yeah, because he's got a footprint. He's been beat up. They say his shoulder's been dislocated and everything, which of course we already know that doesn't mean anything for him as a character. But
Right.
then they say, who did this to you? And they don't give you audio. But even before he starts mouthing the name, your brain gets there.
Yeah, he puts it
Mhm.
together.
Before you realize that you've realized what's happening, you're like, oh.
Oh, that's so much more devious. And then to add to that, when this detective, he just walks into Mulder's house and whatnot. Did anyone else expect him to start singing "Walking in Memphis"? Because that dude straight up looks like Mark Cohn. Like,
all I was thinking the entire time, of course, given my moniker, is he did not invite you in.
I know, I had that same thought. Like, he opens the door and him and the cop just walk in. I was like, hold up, that's a violation right there.
Look, where's your warrant? That's right.
Yup, you need a warrant.
This wouldn't even be admissible.
If Mulder had said come in, that would have been. But he didn't even. Mulder didn't even. He just opens the door like Fox Mulder. He's like, yeah, and they just walk in. I'm like, well, they just screwed it. Even if Mulder was guilty, they just ruined their whole case right there.
Absolutely. Yep. Like that wouldn't hold in court. It's like, well, how did you get this information? Well, we kind of just barged ourselves into the house. Throw that case out.
It was funny. I was reading something about 5 or 6 years ago by a retired police officer, and he said law and order was the worst thing to happen because more and more people, when they get arrested, the first thing they say is, I want a lawyer. First thing they say, you know.
My favorite one is everybody thinks that it's like it is in NCIS. They just get results instantly.
Yeah.
Yeah, zoom in enhance.
We'll have the results of the DNA test back in 3 hours.
Yeah. To be fair, I absolutely believe that a private practitioner could get the results back in 3 hours. It's the state getting it back in a timely fashion. That's the question.
No, the full DNA test. Even the private.
I'm joking. I just want to take a jab at the government.
The scary thing. I'm scared. I work in healthcare, and like certain tests like that you have to pay outside companies to do. They're backlogged so far, and we have to pay a premium to get them back to jump in line if we need to. Like for newborn babies, have to have a mandatory DNA test now, and we can't do it all in house, right? I work in women's healthcare, so I know this particular one. So what we have to send out of house, we have to pay a premium, and then therefore charge the parents more to jump ahead of like law enforcement agencies and people wanting their DNA screen for Ancestry.com and all that sort of stuff. You know, it's such a backlog of that. You wonder anyone like. And I guess we're not to get sidetracked into criminal law enforcement or whatever, but people go for months waiting to hear back on a DNA test that clears them, and it just wrecks their lives for 3 or 4 months, and you know.
Yeah, I'm really glad there's bald representation on the show.
Yeah,
that bald representation.
Back in the day when you could just own it and nobody cared.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, the person that gave us that was Bruce Willis. He's not going to be around much longer, so make sure you tip your hat and give a little thanks, Bruce. Like,
and his other role that people forget about, if I recall correctly, Shocker. The horror movie Shocker. Wes Craven.
You say Shocker, and I immediately went to the Spider-Man villain. So
no, Wes Craven. I believe it's called Shocker.
Oh, Spider-Man villain, not the. Never mind.
Yeah. It's a pretty good horror movie if you ever could see it. But it was a totally different character than almost anything else he's ever played. I guess the Sons of Anarchy character was kind of villainous, obviously villainous too, but not like the dude from Shocker.
So the deal with this victim is that the reason they were hidden is because he could be identified, because he didn't just remove the liver, he chewed it out of them,
Right.
leaving dental marks on ribs. Which all of this already kind of being very horrific just leans even harder into the animalistic kind of.
He just likes his ribs raw. He didn't smoke them or anything.
He don't
I
need
had
no
ribs for dinner
fava
last night. I'm
beans or
so glad I did that
Chianti.
last night instead of tonight.
Yeah, I thought
I mean,
this kind of stuff was probably in its infancy here, what they're showing on screen. Like
some of it's
testing
real
the
and some
bite
of it
marks.
wasn't. Like the bite mark in terms of that's old. That they've been doing it for decades, even before this.
Yeah.
But the computer stuff, what they're doing, it required a lot of computing power, and the FBI probably would have it because that's one of the reasons they built the big supercomputer lab whose name escapes me at the point. To have all this excess
just
computer
wouldn't
power
be-
for all that stuff. Yeah.
It just wouldn't be used for someone's hunch.
Yeah. It was about, I harp on this all the time, but the Babylon 5 and Lightwave 3D, that was a big revolutionary change in putting rendering power and graphics analysis power into a desktop versus a mainframe. That particular piece of software in the real world happened in when Babylon 5 happened, which is right now. So it was the next decade when all this rendering stuff and computer analysis stuff started to be on desktop computers and not mainframes, and because of that particular piece of software.
Well, it makes sense.
Look
to be
here,
fair,
this is why the court
everyone says
went with
the
the
government
psychiatrist.
technology.
He was wearing the gray suit.
John von Neumann Supercomputing Center. That's the one I remember.
Did I cut out?
I hear you.
No, we hear you.
Can y'all hear me?
with the gray suit. Yeah.
Okay, good. Yeah, okay. Sorry, I cut out there for a minute. I love this. He's like, Tooms gets up and shuts the door, and he's like, "What are you doing?" And then you hear, "Ah!"
And that's when you know. I always had a weird. I thought personally when the psychiatrist first came on the scene, I was thinking, are they working together? Is he also one of him? And that's why he's helping him.
He does give off kind of a slimy attitude, especially early on. He's like, "Oh, I took a special look at these things," and you kind of get the feeling like he's working, in ways that he's not supposed to legally. But yeah, then he, gets 8.
Yeah, actually, it's really sad because he does give off that slimy vibe, but then lo and behold, no, he just genuinely did care about his patients. That's kind of the worst. He's like, oh no, this guy's actually just a really good therapist.
I mean, even to the end, even understanding that, but even to the end, he still was kind of weird. The way he walked, he's like, "Oh, nice place," and he was still kind of always kind of giving off that kind of creepy vibe. But he probably deserved better than having his liver
talking to him like a child, like maybe Tooms was mentally stunted or something.
Okay, I hadn't thought of that. Yeah, that's a good point.
Oh, this part now this part is cool.
Oh yeah.
That just whole thing just. Ugh.
I mean, this goes back to what I was saying earlier. This is really the only exciting action-ish scene in the entire episode. We're 42 minutes in a 45-minute episode, and we're just now getting something that's action-oriented. The rest has all been slow, tense, atmospheric buildup. And it earns this little few minute segment here.
And it also, this ties in with the sort of pulpy, otherworldly, like it looks like an infected wound. It's something that shouldn't be there in reality, you know?
Just the yellow, like, blah.
Yeah, I know the coloring and the viscosity is just
Like I said, it reminds me of diarrhea. Just the whole time. Am I wrong, though?
There is not enough rum on this world to save Mando from the bile.
And this is, even though I love the scene, this is where my sort of scientific brain kind of like asked, like, did they know what bile was when they did this? Because human skin has a very large fat component, and bile breaks up fat. So I'm like, did they just pick bile because it's gross looking? Is that why they or did they actually have some sort of like going for some sort of metaphysical type of like what were they, why did they pick bile is the question to me.
maybe they couldn't get the AOK to use the term mucus.
My claustrophobia does not like the ending of this episode. I mean, it's really well done. Doesn't mean I enjoy it.
They just need.
I have a real world horror anecdote right when you guys are ready for it, based on this episode.
Mulder should have taken some Mucinex.
So, when I was watching this with my mom and my stepfather, and because I was like 20 and we were still living there, and they laughed at this scene. I was like, "Why? It's not that funny. No, that's not funny. It's because this happened in real life." And I said, "What?" And they said, in the post office about 5-6 years ago, there was a maintenance worker who had his gloves on when he wasn't supposed to have them on when he was working on a big machine, and it grabbed his glove and sucked him in.
Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah. He said it was a horror thing, but the amount of blood and stuff was all over the place. They were. I mean, we were all pretty like based, talking about it, but that was their memory related to this scene. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Where I grew up in Springfield, where Leon is. Hey, Leon, you know the bread company? It's like
Springfield Bread Co.
Yeah. There was a guy with long hair that got his hair caught in one of the mixers.
Oh, and yanked his head right off?
Red hook. Yeah, yanked him.
Yeah. My grandfather told me that story.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That was gnarly.
Yeah.
What was the James Bond film where they were throwing people into like a big crusher? It was one of the Timothy Dalton ones, or Roger Moore? Robert Davey was in it. I'll have to look it up.
I'm just a little confused here with this scene because at one point it looks like Scully hands him her gun. Like right there,
Yeah,
right there.
It's like they cut something out. Yeah.
Like there must have been a change because it looks like she's handing him her gun, which would make sense. Just, shoot down towards the creature that's coming after you. But I guess it doesn't make for nearly as satisfying.
So Scully, how did Mulder die? Well, I thought the creature was coming out. I just opened fire.
Oh, this is so good.
And Mulder's like, I had enough of that crap.
Yep.
I'm done.
Screw the truth. Boom.
Well, that escalated quickly.
Boom.
Sorry, it took me a second to find the button again. I'm like,
they'll never get a rise out of Tooms again.
He'll never go upstairs again.
oh my God, no more.
Tooms ain't gonna live her another day.
You know what? This one. There you go.
You know, those faces right there were telling me right there at the end. It's like, oh, there's going to be a lot of paperwork on this, isn't there?
And then they show the paperwork at the end of the episode, so you're 100% correct.
It's like, do you believe this? And he's like, smoking on the cancer stick? Yeah, I do.
So there it goes. There it is. Anybody
Good to
this
watch
day-
things that have good writing. Like, yeah, there's some plot, holes and a little bit of weird stuff, but mountains better than some of the stuff we're getting nowadays.
Yeah, definitely.
Than most of the stuff. I'm watching Sharp, which is from the same time period. I reviewed the first 2 episodes of Sean Bean's show based on Bernard Cornwell's novel. And I enjoyed that show more than anything I've watched in the last 5 years, basically.
Because of the stream delay,
that's a really
Zombie
good
Box
show.
came in with a last minute addition. It's like they crushed the case.
Oh. Every time I see the cigarette smoking man to this day, I still think, and the Buffalo Bills will never win the Super Bowl. To this day, I still think that.
Catch you later, Wheel Snakes. We appreciate you, man. You go out there, you
Yeah,
kill
later-
it, and have
later,
good luck with
Wheels.
your content in 2024, my man.
I
I
know.
assume,
That would-
man.
any-
Again, I'm a
any-
misogynist. You could be a chick for all I know. I don't.
You
Any
could be a
final
liberating
thoughts on this
alien.
critter?
It's like,
Yeah, you could have been an
The stretch
alien. Like
man.
we never would have known.
Yeah.
so it was
Any
2
final
great episodes.
Thoughts on the Stretch Man?
I think that this is the only time in the X-Files that there was a follow-up episode that wasn't a direct sequel, like a part 2.
I think you're correct.
Yeah,
Okay.
which was kind of sad. We all
Yeah.
this would have X-Files would have been a nice show. Which I think when they did Supernatural, I'm wondering if they would say, okay, what looking back, I say the X-Files say one thing they did wrong was not going back to stuff they could have gone back to, and so because a lot of shows nowadays, the horror shows or sci-fi shows or whatever, even if they're serialized or even if they're standalone, they'll do callbacks much more often now.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So-
Yeah, Supernatural did that quite a bit, and I mean, I think Kim Manners learned a lot from his time on the X-Files when he went into Supernatural, and Supernatural did kind of fall off when Kim Manners died. Like, let's be real. So I think that his input was vital on these shows. And to be fair, X-Files does do a lot of callbacks to previous episodes, but it only does it in the really overarching story-driven episodes, never the monster of the week ones.
Yeah. And so many of these monsters of the week, like I'm surprised they never referenced the mushroom again, which that was like even if it was just an episode where the US government blew it to smithereens, you know what I mean? Like it was just, or I mean, so the Fluke Man, like if I rank the X-Files villains, I would say, leaving aside the alien people and the conspiracy and the cigarette smoke, all aside, the monsters of the week, number 1 is the giant mushroom. Number 2 is the Fluke Man. Tooms is number 3. The inbred mutants from where?
Oh God, that episode.
That's number 4.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I'm crossing an X-Files episode with the Millennium episode, but there's an episode where Satan comes into these and he's like a school teacher. Is that the X-Files or Millennium? I can't remember which one, but
Is it a female teacher?
It's a female teacher.
Yeah, I think she's like a witch or something.
And she turned into a snake and eats someone. Am I
Yeah,
remembering yeah. That's X-Files, right?
Right. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Because that's like my 5th. Like, not because it's the devil, because literally it's like a villain that like you didn't expect, and when you expect it, like, oh my god, the snake. Oh my, like type of thing.
So I was gonna go with the possessed
couple
doll
other
as
ones
my
are the-
number
the,
one villain, but then you said the inbreds that I completely forgot about. It's like, oh yeah, they probably take the doll. They probably take the cake over the doll. So
That episode with the inbred people were banned for years. Like they
Yeah.
wouldn't show it anywhere.
Yeah, you had to get the VHS and later the DVDs
Yeah.
to be able to see it. If I remember, I could be wrong, but if I remember right, they cut that episode abruptly, like while it was airing. They only aired the first half of it. I don't think they even aired the full episode.
The first time they showed it, they showed it, and then there were all sort of outcries, and on repeat they cut pieces out of it and they never showed it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, Home. That's exactly right, Roman Empire Home. That's the name of that episode.
Yeah.
And that's
wouldn't the oh no, that was a different one. Sorry. There's the town with the vampires.
Oh, where
think that
Luke
was a newer
Wilson
one.
plays the vampire and the sheriff and like
Yeah,
Mulder
yeah,
and Scully
right,
are
right.
sharing their point of
Yeah.
view, and Luke Wilson's got like the big teeth. It's like, oh, that's a great. Actually,
Yeah,
Supernatural based one of their own episodes off that. The season 2 episode about the
Yeah,
trickster
I was also going to mention
inspired
the
by the vampire
trash
episode
monster.
of
Yeah.
yeah. Luke Wilson is an underrated actor. He
Yeah.
should have gotten more roles.
Yeah, you should have. Also, the trash monster. It was like in a town, not a neighborhood. Like with you have to do certain rules and stuff. And if they did something in their lawn that was wrong,
yeah.
monster.
Okay,
Yeah,
I'm remembering.
It wasn't really a trash monster. It was like dirt, like made of dirt or whatever. Yeah, I remember
clay
that.
or dirt or
It
something
was like
that.
a golem or something.
Yeah.
Well,
Well,
it was like one guy's kid or what?
there.
I don't know.
Golem does appear in either an X-Files or Millennium. The Hebrew folk tale Golem.
Yeah,
Doesn't he
I
appear
think
in
that's
either
in
X-Files or
too.
yeah?
And there's
And
also
I'm learning.
the
I just really need to go back and
Man
watch
Bat
all of those
guy.
files.
Yeah.
I think wasn't that the first episode with Doggett was the Man Bat?
I honestly, I probably have to go back and rewatch the show. It's been a long time.
Yeah, I
more than
started
watched
a
54
rewatch
episodes.
last summer. I got up to like season 4 or so. I really need to actually go and do the whole thing over again, including the final season that I never actually saw. Do you guys like the movies? I like both X-Files movies. I know a lot of people didn't like was the second one Fight the Future? The second one's I Want to Believe. And I enjoyed that one as well.
My as far as entertainment, the movies were good. The first revival was good. The problem I have is, it's like I said before with the show never. You don't need to answer every mystery, but if you promise an alien invasion, God damn it, sorry, Jacob, God darn it, I mean, like solve some.
He's
mysteries
never
and
gonna
make
live
new ones,
that go.
solve some mysteries. Well, Supernatural, they solved some mysteries, right, and made new ones. They didn't just keep circling the same mystery, or Fringe answered your questions and gave you new ones to ask, right? So you kind of it's real frustrating when you invest in a TV show, let's say, and the premise is they have this mystery they're unfolding in front of you, right, and they just keep dragging you on, right? I mean, and not to be vulgar about it, but let's
Catch
say
you later, Zombie Box.
There's Zombie Box. If you're with a person and they're just like leading you on and on and on in a relationship, you know what I mean? It's the same sort of thing, right? You gotta grow and expand, not just repeat and deny and delay.
Yeah.
Right.
I mean, look, here's a real world example: A Song of Ice and Fire.
I thought we were talking about good TV today.
No, I'm talking about the books. Like the books are never going to be completed. So like the X-Files was never completed because they never answered any of the mysteries. They never.
Well,
Yeah, but
talking
maybe
about
the
Game
real
of
mystery was the friends we made along the way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, our friend Eugene Tooms.
Yeah, for anyone who's curious, I will never read nor watch any of the Game of Thrones until he finishes the books, because if I know something's not finished, I'm just not interested, because I'm like weird and I have to have a complete story. If I don't have a complete story, I just get really mad, and I can't. If I know something's not finished, I'm not going to even start it, even if it's good.
I'm never gonna read or watch them just because I don't care. I'm gonna be real. Like it's very difficult for me to get interested in high fantasy. When you grow up playing D&D, like almost nothing that other fantasy stuff does as good as the own like creations that you created doing D&D. So I just could not care less about Game of Thrones. I saw the first episode and never continued.
What, you only saw the first one, the first episode?
Yeah, I literally only saw the first episode of Game of Thrones, and I just did not care to keep going.
Well, again, man, I was talking about the
Sean
books
Bean.
towards the
Sean Bean just seems to die in everything.
not in Sharp.
Ironically, not in Silent Hill. Of all the things for Sean Bean to be in and not die, Silent Hill. That's
Not-
so weird to me.
He lived in Sharp, and in another movie you're doing, Jacob, Ronin.
Oh yeah, yeah. That's right. I forgot.
And
I forgot
He
was in
played he played the guy who set the world record for a special forces escape in a movie. It's in the 90s, and this is a true story. That SAS guy was caught behind enemy lines, I think in Iraq or something like that. And he went overland for he set the record. They thought he was dead, and it was like 1,000 days on his own going through the desert with no supplies or some crazy number like that. You know,
Yeah, I vaguely remember that.
he was considered one of the toughest human beings ever. And Sean Bean starred in the movie based on him.
Huh.
Yeah.
Cool. Well, guys, that was a fun stream. Glad y'all could come on.
Wait, I got
Glad
one more
Leon
thing.
could come on.
One more thing for
One more
Leon.
thing? All right, what were they?
So we were talking about dogs before, Leon, and while we're doing, I was Googling for the biggest dog species in the world to see how big they get. And I know they were like 220 pounds or whatever.
Yeah,
on-
and Newfoundland, I imagine, is the biggest.
On that
Yep.
list, there's actually a dog called a Leon Burger.
I need one. I probably can't have a dog just because for one, I already have one. She's got a gimp leg. She's adorable. But I have a trained bird, so I don't want a dog screwing with my parrot.
Yeah.
But once it eventually dies in 30 years, maybe I'll get a Leon Burger. That'd be
Leon with a
perfect.
Leon Burger. Yeah.
Cool. Well, thanks for coming on, guys. Thanks to Leon for coming on.
Oh,
Good having you, man.
Jacob,
Happy to
one
do
more
it,
thing.
man. Happy to
One
do
more
it.
thing, Jacob. There is a callback to this episode many seasons later where someone drops a line. One of the agents goes in, do you think this is like a liver-eating couture? There's a callback to this and to another mystery where they just say it, but it's not that. But they do mention this in the future.
Yeah. I remember that.
Yeah.
So yeah, this was a great show, guys. And
Absolutely.
let's go around the horn and plug our stuff. Mando.
Hello, I am Untamed Mando. I stream on Kick, Twitch, YouTube, and all of the places. I don't have a whole awful lot going on besides Roman this next Thursday. I'm going to be streaming on Twitch and Kick kind of a little bit randomly for a little bit of this week and next week, just to give myself a chance to sit back and breathe a little bit for the start of the new year, because this next year, my gosh, I am going to be psycho busy, and I've already been asked to be on a couple of different shows and stuff, and I'm excited. But yeah, so I'm hopefully going to be getting Americus. He's going to be doing a ton of editing because he's my editor, and I'm just going to pile on the things, hopefully. And yeah, we'll be getting some more content out there on my YouTube channel pretty soon. So please subscribe, do all the thingy-ma-bobbers.
Leon, man, what do you got coming?
Yeah, man. If you watch my channel, if anyone's new here, my channel is Words of Paradise. I do daily content every day. In fact, I think I'm going to start switching to a 2-video-a-day model with the start of 2024, because my first year on YouTube was this past year, and it was explosive. It was awesome. I met a lot of great people, had a lot of fun along the way. And how are you going to up the ante in 2024? I think 2 videos almost every day is the way to go. Obviously, Jacob, you're coming on my show this coming Monday, which is my 2,000 subscriber special, is also my 1-year anniversary special. It's going to be Jacob Ironside, Lofty Pixels, the Little Platoon. We're gonna have Zach. So it's gonna be a big group. I normally my live shows are 5 or less individuals, but now I want this one to be a big celebration. So be sure on the lookout for that on Monday. And yeah, just check out my daily content. Put out a couple of videos a day about Green Day changing the lyrics of their song to be about anti-Trump stuff. And then I did a video about what was my other video about? I don't even remember. I cover so much stuff daily. But yeah, if you enjoy nerd news, nerd news with a political twinge to it, then I'm the way to go.
Cool. Matt, what do you got coming?
Green Day, when punk artists become suck-up artists. What a nice transition right before riots. So I got, let's see, I'll be on Roman's show this Thursday. I'll be on a bunch of stuff with Jacob this month. Depending on how many and all that. We talked about Ronin. Basically, I think I signed up for most, if not all, of your Saturday shows, Jacob. And so,
yep.
Yeah. And I think I skipped one or two of the Tuesday ones because I didn't see the movie in a long time or whatever. Might have to watch Lawrence of Arabia again. Haven't seen that in 10 years. Anyway, I do my own live stream on Friday afternoons from like 3 to 4 or 4:30. Friday Fandemonium. Talk about comics. I unbox any cool stuff I got in. You might see my my Christmas gift of myself to myself if it's here by Friday. I found the Sharp Blu-rays. They're out of print, so I had to order eBay used Blu-ray of the Region 2, which is the European copy. But I can use my computer mastery to rip those easily. But I'm real happy I'll be able to watch the rest of it in high def. When I get them, that's cool.
Cool.
So I'm reviewing Sharp. I'm reviewing Reacher. I'm reviewing unfortunately the unfortunately bad Monarch TV show. Those three are ongoing, and I'm intermittently reviewing a horror TV show called 30 Coins, which is from HBO España, HBO Spain. Which, if you like horror TV shows, it's probably the best ongoing one right now. At least until From comes back on in a few months. What else? So Roman I talked about. Roman this Thursday. Jacob. I think that's about it. Yeah, that's about it. Yeah.
Okay, cool. Beard.
I just want to go ahead and say real quick before I get into what I've got coming up. This was a great stream. I really enjoyed it. Never really dipped too far into X-Files as a whole, but I think I'm probably going to just have to start a watch of the entire series coming up. So, but that aside, let's see here. Thursday, I'll be over on Roman of the Empire stream. Who knows what he's got going for that? When it's free range, you just kind of have to fly by the seat of your pants. Yes, hang on.
There will most certainly be scissoring on Roman's panels always. The scissor family
Jacob.
continues to expand.
She started it, not me.
I did. Technically, Roman started all of this.
It's true.
Never forget.
And then next week,
I'll just thank Roman for that. Thank you, Roman.
Yeah, you send him some breadsticks. He loves those.
Yes,
next week on the 8th, After the Weekend is back, and we'll be doing kind of a ad lib, what's been going on, kind of see how things are going stream, and then we'll be jumping back into our regular every Mondays and every other Saturdays. Plus, you never really know I'm going to show up on other people's streams. So if anybody wants to find that out, you can follow me on Twitter, X, Twix, whatever the heck you want to call it, at Beard of Liberty.
Cool. Nice.
Yeah. And Roman's been dying for a pet spider. So if you want to send him one,
Yes.
Yeah. He loves those.
Preferably one made out of breadsticks.
Yes.
Hey, just so you know, Beard, I didn't know that you streamed or had. I've seen you. We interact all the time on Twitter and whatnot. I didn't know you had your own channel. So send it to me on X so I can subscribe and check you out.
Well, see, the thing is, I don't actually. I've stumbled into being on other people's things, and After the Weekend is a buddy of mine. His R to the Icky, and he wanted me to be a co-host, so that's where I am now. But I'll let you know.
Gotcha. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, yes.
Beard of Liberty.
I subscribe to him by all means, and then I'm
Beard of Liberty has no channel, but his beard does.
That's true. That's right. That's right.
So yeah, for me, I will be on Roman's show Thursday, and then this Saturday, all in the mix will be what was it? Original or remake, which was better. So we'll be going over some movies and their remakes and decide which one was better. And next Tuesday, I'll be going over the movie The Light Horseman. It's a movie set in World War I about Australian mounted soldiers. It's a really good one. It's a good movie.
Okay.
You mean the one where they lost the war to the birds?
No.
That was the last major war that mounted cavalry was used.
Actually, unintentionally, next week is the Light Horseman, but then the next Tuesday is Lawrence of Arabia, which has similar themes in it. So yeah, and and I'll be on Leon's channel on next Monday, and then Oh yeah, I'll be on Gord's show next Tuesday, so that'll be fun. And I
Cool.
think that's all I got going right now. Yeah, that's it. Cool. Glad everybody could come on and talk about this great show and hopefully get some people watching it that haven't seen it before.
Yes.
It's worth it. It is absolutely worth
It
it.
is. It is.
It
On that
still holds
original
up.
media that you will buy, not on any streaming service will make it edited out of your hands.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right. Now watch out for those raccoons.
Man, this popcorn is so good. Oh, it's Pizza Man.
Well, happy New Year to everybody again, and we'll see y'all next time. Later.